Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Bucket List presented by Only in Your State. I'm here with my co host Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Marissa.
So, we are in our season 3 state exploration challenge. We are going around the country and creating these adventure trips for people to take in various states. We've covered some really great ones so far, and today I'm super pumped to be tackling Florida because just so happens I live here. So before we jump in, I know we have this thing now about weird facts, and
Yes.
so we're kicking off every episode with the weirdest fact that we could find in the state. And lucky for us, Florida is chock full of weird stuff.
I was hoping that you would be ready for this. Okay.
Honestly, it was really hard to narrow some stuff down because obviously the whole like internet meme Florida man which
Yes.
became popular, which was just like it refers to a person that happens to be in Florida or live in Florida that just is like doing some crazy stuff and usually irrational, illegal, who knows. There's so much that you could just Google Florida man news and bada bing,
Yeah.
bada boom.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have a good example of Florida man memes?
Um, I mean, okay, Florida man hurls sausage at older brother during disagreement.
See, I was gonna
That's
make one up and be like, okay, we could just ad lib this, right? Like, Florida man attacks bystander with clamshell. Like, well,
that's
yes.
probably one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is just one that a day ago. This
Oh,
Florida man was arrested and charged for hurling sausages at older brother during a disagreement.
I
I,
mean, you fight how you fight. I guess. That doesn't seem too bad.
did you know you could get arrested by hurling
Did not.
sausages?
Did not. I would not
Weird.
waste food like that, but but
Not
I
at
can
this
I get it.
barbecue.
No.
Do you have any facts that you found that you want to
Yeah,
share?
so one is not so much a weird like Florida man fact, but I learned it recently. But the Hard Rock Cafe brand, like the Hard Rock Cafe,
Yeah.
I did not realize that it is owned solely by the Seminole, Florida tribe.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they just flat out own the brand. Like I knew
Yeah.
that they were wealthy and like they own some things, but yeah, Hard Rock Cafe and Casino is owned by the Seminoles. Who would
Yeah,
have thought?
yeah,
Yeah.
there are actually a lot around where I live. You'll see a lot of like tribal buildings
Yeah.
and in person. Well, because I live close to the Hard Rock Guitar Hotel that was just recently built, and yeah, there's a Seminole. There are a couple of Seminole casinos too in the
Yep.
like surrounding smaller area, but yeah, that is very cool. Anything else? Any other fun facts you have?
Official state food. You should. I'm assuming you know this.
I'll take three guesses.
Okay.
Is it okay. Is it key lime pie?
It is key lime pie.
Oh, okay. I had a couple that I could throw out there, but
I thought it was going to be like something seafood related or like oranges question mark. I don't know,
that's a
something
good
with
guess.
cattle because I know there's like a big cattle industry there. I don't know. That's all I
Hmm.
had. Hard
Yeah.
Rock Cafe
Okay.
and key lime pie.
Yeah, well, also fun facts that Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa is the longest continual sidewalk in the world, which I found
Oh,
that out.
oh.
Did not know that.
how
Weird.
how far does it stretch?
That's an excellent question. I have no idea. 4.4 miles.
Oh, I was okay. I was expecting something not to harsh your your fun fact. I was like, oh, it's got to be like 50 miles, just like in circles.
Dang. Hard
No,
to impress Sarah.
look, I just love walkability, and that's really important to me. I was expecting a little bit more, but that's okay.
Sure.
I'll
Okay.
go find it someday soon because there is a place I want to visit in Tampa. So that I found on this podcast research
Ooh,
extravaganza. So you know what? I think I'm
very
gonna have to see it
nice.
with my own two
Cool.
eyes.
Okay. just a quick 5 mile jaunt. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so now I'm just gonna have to find facts that like really blow people away because
Someone, I mean, don't use me as the litmus test. That was pretty crazy.
darn it. Okay, what about the first suntan lotion was invented by a Miami pharmacist?
I believe that 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes
Or was it like
sense.
baby oil and
Yeah,
baby oil?
probably.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to dive right in, and we have a handful of stops that we're going to be adding to this podcast, also our companion article that will drop in the show notes. So if you happen to be traveling to Florida and it's your first time, or you live here and maybe you don't do a lot of exploration in your state, check out some of these places that we're gonna discuss today, because I do think we have a very um well-rounded list. I think, Florida's huge, so it is really
Yeah.
hard to we this podcast episode could be like 24 hours long, but we've
Also, the
condensed it
regions
down.
of Florida have very different vibes, I
True.
think. So it's, yeah,
Yeah,
depends.
definitely. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you want to kick off this episode with your first stop for our exploration challenge.
Yeah, I mean, since we were talking about Tampa and this incredibly long sidewalk, we should also talk about one of the places I very much would like to visit at some point in my life would be the Salvador Dali Museum in Tampa. One of my favorite artists. It's dedicated to the Spanish artist Salvador Dali, and he was a surrealist artist known for his skill, his craftsmanship, his honestly just bizarre works that are absolutely fantastic. So if you think of like the melting clock painting, that's him. That's a persistence of memory. But he's also done some other famous ones like elephants, or these like big stretched out elephants, and swan reflecting elephants, maelstrom, and all these different ones that you should look up. And this museum has permanent exhibits and rotating exhibits. And if you just want to go see a telephone made out of a lobster and it's called an aphrodisiac, you can do that. Or like the Venus de Milo with pom poms and drawers pulling out of her chest. Like that's also available to you at the Salvador Dali Museum. So take a walk down the longest contiguous sidewalk and right over to the museum for a fun time. Yeah.
Very cool. That's a great way to kick it off, honestly. I've never been, and just driving around the area, I always see signs for it,
Yeah.
and I know that it like physically, the museum, architecturally I should say, is
Yes.
also very cool to look
It
at.
is. Yeah. It's stunning to look at, and it should just be. It's something you should go to and see. It's not going to be like any other museum you've ever been to. So.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. All right, so I'm gonna kick it off with a little nod to our previous season where we talked about local lore and legends, and
Mm.
there's a place in Florida. We've talked about this before, the legendary skunk ape. And
Yes.
there's actually there's the skunk ape research headquarters, and this is an outpost that's dedicated to
No.
exploring the
Okay.
mysteries behind the skunk ape.
I'm excited about this. All right.
And so it's in the town of Ochopi, and it's kind of off the beaten path, but a lot of people go, like, cryptozoologists
Mhm.
and adventurers who love local lore. And basically, if you don't know what the skunk ape is, it's Florida's version of Bigfoot. And whether you believe in it or not, it's kind of fun to go to places like this, the headquarters, which will, give you a glimpse into the world of cryptids and the elusive skunk ape. And so I think it's a really cool add to this, just because it's so you can't find stuff like this anywhere else. Like kind of like what you're saying about
Yeah.
the Dali Museum. It's just like, where else can you find a skunk ape research headquarter?
And I feel like, and maybe this is just because I'm biased of who I talk to and what I see, but I feel like there's this real resurgence of like Bigfoot passion. Like people get
Mm.
these Bigfoot cutouts and they put them everywhere, and like at every like little mom and pop shop, there's some Bigfoot flag. So it's like, hey, maybe it's real. Maybe we should get in on this. Go to the Skunk Ape Center and find out the truth.
Yeah.
Um, no, that's really cool. my next item is sort of in the same vein, but not really. It is the Museum of Osteology in Orlando.
Hmm.
So it is skeletons, the Museum of Osteology. So yes, all bones, skeletons, and this is land creatures, sea creatures, just everything you can imagine. And it's what, over 450 real skeletons, and you can just go in and learn about, basically like how people preserve bones and dig these up and learn from just skeletal remains, and basically learn about the form and function of the skeletal system itself. So it's really cool. It's an exhibit where it's just like skeletons on skeletons on skeletons. So I would advise, like, if you have younger kids, it might be a little too much. I'm not
Hmm.
sure. Like, to me, I would get my palms sweaty, but that's my own thing. So it might be fine for most people, but it looks really fascinating, and it is in Orlando, Florida.
Very cool. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
Is it by, do you know if it's by like donation? There, people are like donating, science is donating
Oh,
these
like how they
skeletons.
actually. That
Yeah.
is a great question. I did see on the website that they were touting like specific Oklahoma wildlife skeletons. So maybe there was a collection of skeletons that were donated. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Funny story, unrelated to the US, but I was in a museum when I was traveling recently, and it was basically this Surgeons Hall historical museum. And it has all of these specimens from like skeletons and history and like just, carcinomas and things you can see. The funniest thing that I want to mention, because you ask, is it was just created because some guy already had it all collected. Some guy just had all of these things, and they're like, you know what? Maybe we should have a museum. So maybe it's the same thing
Wow.
with some dude in the US was like, you know what? I have a ton of skeletons. This is getting a little weird. Maybe I should like do something with it. Make
That's
it
so
educational.
funny.
Yeah.
How
But
wild. His partner was probably like, we're going to get a divorce unless you move
we
these
need to talk
200
about.
bodies out of our basement.
Yeah, let's talk about these bodies, please.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
The leading causes of divorce, you don't know that, is like collections of bodies.
Yeah,
It's
I would assume that would lead to
right.
something. All right, cool. So moving on, next step we have Bach Tower Gardens. This is
Mm.
another one of a kind place in Florida, which I absolutely adore. So near Lake Wales, it's on 250 acres, the gardens. And just to start, the gardens in and of themselves are absolutely stunning. So it's just landscape grounds and native flora. You can wander around, walk, have a picnic. It's just beautiful in and of itself as the garden. But then you have the singing tower, which it like one of the most beautiful things I think in the state of Florida, in my opinion. It's over 200 feet tall, so it's massive, and it has over 60 carillon bells, and the bells are they just will go off randomly. They have these beautiful melodies that stretch throughout the gardens while you're there. So it's really cool. You have music. It's an architectural wonder and a really beautiful place to spend an afternoon.
And the tower itself, I don't know what even style of architecture it is, because it's almost like a mix between like some sort of modern, because it has that, like, it's almost like octagonal, isn't it? Like when it goes up. So
Yeah.
it is really stunning to look at. And we've featured it on Only in Your State. Oh my gosh, so many times. It was a hidden gem that we celebrated, and it's been on a lot
Yeah.
of our road trips. So we love it. You'll love it. You should check it out if you haven't already. Okay. So, talking about well loved places, I'm going to. Okay, yes, I'm going to talk about the Venetian pool in Coral Gables.
Mhm.
So, currently, FYI, it is closed for the fall and winter season, but will reopen in the spring of 2024. But basically, it is a historic U.S. swimming pool in Coral Gables, and it is such a unique pool because it is basically fed by spring water from an underground aquifer, and that's like over 820,000 gallons of water, I think, in the actual spring. And so there are little grottos and caves, and it looks like Venetian architecture. You won't even believe you're in the United States when you go visit this place. It looks gorgeous. Have you been?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just see you nodding along. Like, would you recommend it? Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. highly recommend. I think where it's positioned just in the area in like the Coral Gables area, it like you don't even need a pool when you have access to something like this, which I think
Yeah.
is very cool. And yeah, it can get a little bit crowded, which is expected, but I just you could swim in a grotto in your neighborhood. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Really does look like you're in, in Venice, Italy. Like it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, good ad for that one. Um
Thanks.
and okay, so kind of switching gears. I wanted to throw this one in because I just had such a blast. And for context, Sarah and I went to a podcast conference. I think it's going to be, was it a year ago? Next month?
In February, yeah.
Okay, so we were in Orlando. We ended up for an Only in Your State article. We went to this place called Cocktails and Screams, and I just had such a blast. I feel like I've
Yeah.
never been in a bar like that where it's combining Halloween and mixology.
Yes.
Everything was decorated floor to ceiling, scary stuff, projectors.
Yeah.
It
And
was
themed drinks, and everyone
Yeah,
was in on it, and everyone who was in the bar just was like, "Yeah, we love horror stuff and we're into
yeah,
this." So it was like a great crowd too.
yeah. Live music. And I think people were even dressed up. Was it? I think we
Yes.
went. Maybe it was Adam's Family Night or something, and people were dressed up.
There was a show too. So like there was a DJ and then there was this orchestrated show. And yeah, I think you're right that people were dressed up, and you can even rent like I think a private room in the back with like special like decorations and stuff. It is like one of the best places I've ever been to. It's great.
Yeah, I think if you love Halloween, if you love scary
Yes.
stuff, it's like straight out of a Tim Burton film. Basically, you're
Hmm.
walking into this place, and they have also very fun cocktail menu.
Yeah.
So highly recommend. I think if you love all things scary, it's like a year round thing. It's not just
Yeah.
Halloween. So yeah, you can go
Yep.
anytime. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, good recommendation. That was amazing. I would definitely go back to that place. It was really cool. Okay, switching gears again. Let's talk about the Kennedy Space Center.
Heck
So,
yeah.
I mean, look, I feel like I almost left it off the list because I figured like, well, everyone knows about it, right? Like it's one of the big field centers that NASA runs, but I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. So, it's located on Merritt Island, and it's one of the main spots you can visit if you want to learn about the USA space program, and you can discover about all of our different like shuttle launches and attempts and all of the programs like the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and the various shuttles that we've launched. And there's a lot of interactive pieces there with the Science Museum. So I think it's just a really cool spot that if you are interested in space or aeronautics, you should really check it out. And it's just like a fun thing to do, like any other science museum. You're going to learn something and see like the the gardens and stuff outdoors that have like these like rocket gardens and things you can walk through, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think adding a place like that people have probably heard of, but it's still because I've lived on and off in Florida for 15 years now, and I've never even been to the Kennedy Space Center.
Well,
I
now you
know.
should.
It's like there's something about the big attractions to me that they're there, they're always going to be there. You don't really beeline to them, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I do
especially if
really
you're a
want to go.
local. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're local, because you kind of hear about it all the time. But I do, yeah. That the Kennedy Space Center would be. It's just like seems like a fun way to spend an afternoon.
Well, now you need to
Um,
go and you need to see the
I know.
rockets. You need to learn about some stuff, get a hat, and then maybe get like some astronaut ice cream, little
Oh,
frozen dry. I mean, I've never had it, but I
oh
imagine
yes.
that it's
Gross.
delicious. It's something that you can try.
Okay, yeah. You're gonna see me one of these episodes with like my little NASA hat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Perfect.
All right, so we're jumping down for my next stop to Miami, a jewel at the very tip of South Beach, which also South Beach in and of itself should be a
Yeah.
place that everyone stops because it's changed over the year a lot over the years since I've lived in Florida, specifically in Miami. But this place in particular, South Point Park, I absolutely love. I was going to this park when I was 18, 19 years old, when it was nothing. There was like nothing there. It was a jetty. You could watch the cruise ships go by out into the ocean. It was a little greenery space. There was a restaurant. Parking was pretty much free. Now there are condo buildings. It's turned into
Okay.
this huge park that people go run, they jog. You can have a picnic there. It's really beautiful. Just there, you could sit on the rocks, which is right. Like I said, the channel where the boats
Yep.
come in, which is also very cool. But they have water features now, like splash parks, and it's also just, I feel like if you're in Miami, you're in South Florida, you really should go to the ocean,
Yep.
and just see, because it is beautiful. And I mean, I think it's one of the best beaches in our country.
Okay.
But
Yeah, whenever that's an interesting recommendation for South Beach because anytime I've been there a couple of times, but it was basically a vibe of like, oh, you're partying or you're going out to bars or it's really busy or like sure there's like art deco and stuff you can like check out, but I didn't think about going to a peaceful giant park that is one of the best beaches in the country. So I'm going to have to
yeah,
put that on my list next time I'm down.
yeah, highly recommend.
Okay. So, next, I am going to talk about okay. Well, the historic district of Saint Augustine.
St. Augustine.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, Saint Augustine. We've talked about it on the podcast before, and it's just one of those places I think should be on anyone's list if they're tackling Florida in this kind of road trip because it is such a historic place and it is what the oldest continuously occupied by settlers that settlement in the United States, right? Like it's the oldest.
Yeah.
So then you can walk around downtown and it's very pedestrian friendly. You can see all of these historic forts and just like pieces and parts of history that you can learn about. But also, you can go on ghost walks. It's known to be haunted. You can get a little bit of that spooky kind of fun history there too, which I think is absolutely fabulous. And one of the main reasons why I would go. But then also you have the Pirate and Treasure Museum that is now located in St. Augustine. Yes, there you go. And yeah, it's a pirate museum. You can learn about how pirates function in Port Royal and see some of the cool treasures and things that you can learn about. So yeah, if you want obviously more to do in St. Augustine than just ghost walks in pirate museums, but still
But that's a
worth
good place
a
to
visit.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Augustine, two places I can recommend that we covered on Only in Your State. One of them is Ice Plant Bar. It's set in an old 1920s industrial building that used to produce ice. Um,
Nice.
Now it's a bar, really cool, like mixology bar and restaurant. And another place called Sarbez, which is a hidden gem that serves gourmet grilled cheese and tons. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. And they have tons of arcade games and pinball and craft beer. Very, very cool place as
Awesome.
well. Yeah, just some
Fantastic.
adding in some little
Yeah.
hidden gems. But I do love St. Augustine. That is a really cool city to explore.
Yeah.
All right, so I am also adding a food spot on here because
Okay.
to me, I feel like, well, key lime pie is great. What you should really be eating when you come to Florida, in particular South Florida, is a Cuban sandwich.
Mm.
And despite the fact that I no longer eat meat, um, my dad is still Cuban, and I feel like I have an affinity for Cuban sandwiches because I love pickles, I love
Yep.
Swiss cheese, I love
Yep.
mustard, I love it all compressed together.
Yep.
And there's a place actually in Little Havana. So, also adding another stop on here, Little Havana,
Yeah.
if anybody wants to see what the Miami scene is really about, the Little Havana neighborhood is a great place to go. You can walk the sidewalks, listen to live music. People are just like jamming out, pop into bars, and then, of course, grab a Cuban sandwich somewhere. My recommendation is Sandwich de Miami, and it's family owned, just a small little spot that makes their own Cuban bread, and they basically have one of the best Cuban sandwiches in Miami. So highly
Nice.
recommend stopping
Have you
there.
ever been able to find a meat substitute Cuban sandwich that works for you?
Um,
Well, I
I've
guess also cheese substitute.
Yeah, no, they do have more cheese substitutes than I think. The hardest thing for vegans would be the pork,
Yeah,
because the slow roasted pork and the ham are really what make a Cuban sandwich, and
yeah.
they don't have good vegan substitutes for that. So
Mm.
still holding out
Well,
hope. Someone,
one day,
please.
science will catch up.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Also, something I want to mention as a non-Floridian is I didn't realize what a phenomenon the pub sub was. Of like, you go into the beach, you're going on a drive, you get a pub sub, and if you can't make it down to Miami, at the very least, for a Florida sandwich, head to Publix and just get a sandwich there. Really, like
Yes.
it's a thing.
Yeah, even they have Publix, even Georgia, South Carolina.
Yeah,
So yes, they have vegan options actually, pub
there you go.
subs. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So next, I am going to talk about quite a few things that are in Key West. So,
Mm.
if you haven't been to the Florida Keys or, Key West specifically, I think it's just one of those. Yes, it's like very touristy and it's expensive and all those things, but I think it's a unique experience too, especially if you're able to fly into the little airport or drive over the bridges. That's really really cool. And they have a nice historic downtown area, which is just like a hub of all things like restaurant, bars, shops. And it's really yeah, it's a really fun place to be down in Mallory Square and then also in Old Town. But then you can also visit Fort Zachary and Dry Tortugas National Park, and then go to like mile marker 1, which is basically the end of the highway, like the southernmost point, which is really fun. So Key West, I would love to go back to Key West sometime soon. It's just it is, like a more of expensive touristy area, but it's definitely worth checking out and taking a trolley around town and just seeing all the cool historic buildings. Also, you can go visit Ernest Hemingway's home and museum. So even if you're not a fan of Ernest Hemingway, it is just a cool thing to see in terms of, our history and literary history. But also, there are cats. So that's the most important thing. I just want to get past the author thing to the cats. So there are over 50, maybe 60 polydactyl cats living at Ernest Hemingway's home. And a lot of them are the offspring of Snow White, which was his original polydactyl cat that was allegedly given to him by a ship's captain. And I think that's all I need to say. So if you want to see cats with little thumbs on their paws and, maybe learn about some literary history, whatever, go to the Ernest Hemingway Home and Museum.
Yes, very good suggestion. Just all encompassing. Florida Keys, it's one of my favorite places in Florida.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been to the museum, and I was able to pet some of the cats and
Nice.
take photos of their little feet, and
I love the
very
little
adorable.
thumbs. It's
Yeah.
just adorable. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cute. So I'm adding this one to the list because it's not your average farmer's market. And I love a good farmer's market. When you
Hmm.
think of the term farmer's market, most people probably think of closing down sidewalks, putting up little tents, and selling your stuff.
Yes.
But the Yellow Green Farmers Market in Hollywood, Florida is very, very different. For starters, it is, I think, something like over 40,000 square feet in a building, this giant,
Wow.
like,
Okay. Yeah.
warehouse like building that tons of vendors that sell various things, food, You have one vendor will be just like a cheese maker. One vendor has all things pickles.
Oh, yeah.
You have restaurants, you have bars. People are playing live music there.
So is it
Karaoke
like a permanent
sometimes.
structure that
Yeah,
is okay?
permanent structure that is always there, that has grown in leaps and bounds over probably the past decade, because it used to be just a couple of random stalls in this warehouse, and now it's massive. They
Nice.
have whole restaurants in there of people that just they go, and maybe they don't want to have a brick and mortar, but they just want to set up shop and
Yeah.
sell some great food. And you can get food from all over the world. You can go grab a beer at the bar and walk around, also shop produce, coffee, all that good stuff. But it's a really great way, I think, to spend like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
just getting to see. It's indoor outdoor too, which is perfect for Florida.
I love me a good permanent farmers market where people are built up. There are stalls that are always there. There are specials that are
Yeah.
always going on, and you just there's this like energy and vibe to them where it's like perfect. Plus, if I can get like a drink and then shop for food, I mean that's
Right.
perfect. That's
Yeah.
afternoon for me.
And dogs are allowed, so you can
Even
stop and
better.
pet people's dogs. It's like,
Yes,
perfect.
perfect. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so we're Hollywood, Florida.
Yes.
Okay. And now, my last official recommendation is I feel like I burned through all of my like tippy tops, but these ones I came across and I'm lumping them together because they're very similar. But it is the Bubble Room in Captiva, and
Gotcha.
Whimsyland in Safety Harbor. And they're basically, I know I've talked about similar places before, so like art houses or like whimsical diners and things going on, but it's the same. So the Bubble Room is temporarily closed for renovations, and this restaurant is one of those delight for all the senses. And so just keep track of it because it is just full of color and craziness. And for some reason, like the slogan is it's always Christmas at the Bubble Room, but there's always different stuff going on there too. So it's something to check out. But while that's closed, you can always visit Whimsyland, which is more of a an art house that started out by just the owners collecting bowling balls and adding it to the house, and it's just one of those that have evolved ever since. And it's like inside out a absolute crazy art installation. Every square inch is covered with something, and it's just, if you visit it, you can wander through and see sculptures, paintings, bottle trees, like recycled material sculptures and all that kind of stuff, and the bowling balls, of course, the bowling balls. So yeah, that's one final stop in Florida before you hit the road.
No, those are great. Yeah. Yeah, I know, like, we've covered a handful of places just in the past 30 minutes, and there's so much more that I feel
Yeah.
like we can cover. But also, we are going to throw a bunch more spots on our interactive map. So if you head on over to our article, which is in the show notes, and you will be able to click on the interactive map, and we'll probably have triple the amount of stops that we
Yeah.
just talked about, plus lodging recommendations, restaurants, all that good stuff. So you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do when you're visiting Florida from this list, from that map, and just kind of, choose your own adventure.
It's yeah, it's just a great place for you to start if you're wanting to plan a trip in Florida, if you're visiting, or if you're a local that maybe hasn't gone to the Kennedy Space Center or maybe wants to go somewhere else.
Ouch.
Yeah, for something to do. So check it out.
Yes. And also, Sarah makes these incredible playlists that are state
Mhm.
specific. I am pumped for this one. Florida. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
So we're going to add that also into our article, which will be in the show notes. And yeah, anything else you want to add about Florida? I feel like we could talk about Florida for hours.
Oh wow. Anything else? I don't think so.
Okay. Leave a little bit of mystery. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
don't think I have anything else.
Cool. All right. Well, stick around next week. We are going to be covering another state for our exploration challenge. And as always, you can contact us. Our information is going to be in the show notes. reach out. We would love to hear from you.